Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight.
Well, it was far right in January and it's government policy in June. The PM announces a national grooming gangs inquiry led by a judge. But will survivors accept it? They're nervous, they're optimistic. Do they put their faith in this Labour government?
Yes, indeed. As Charlie said, a far-right bandwagon in January. So what changed his mind? The Casey report, set for likely publication on Monday, is expected to explicitly link the scandal to Pakistani communities, and it was institutionally covered up over fears of racism. Also,
and when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. They're not.
Labour's Chief Secretary to the Treasury tried to gaslight the nation by saying small boat invaders were mostly women and children. We know they're not. But the Casey review damningly also concludes that illegal migration, such as the small boats on the Channel, is directly linked with the exploitation of violence against British girls. Reports tonight also suggest, get this, Downing Street is so concerned about the publication of the Casey review that they fear a repeat of last year's Southport riots when the British public, you at home, hear the full details. Also tonight.
ساعت الان 3:37 دقیقه ورودی فرحزاده پایین.
The Middle East on the brink. Israel says its fighter jets will fly over Tehran as Iran warns more retaliatory strikes are heading for Tel Aviv. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister tonight says the UK is sending British jets to the region for contingency support. And do you remember last year's Leeds riots? Because one Tory councillor faces the sack this Monday for saying on Facebook that he blamed multiculturalism for the violence, with an MP even reporting him to the police. He joins me live shortly, also tonight. Brazen attacks on police cars, crime going unsolved. Have coppers simply given up on fighting crime? I'll be joined tonight by my Saturday panel, the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley, the journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, and the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. And look who's enjoying her happy holidays.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person.
Yes, Greta Thunberg, of course, the so-called doom goblin sent packing by Israel on a flight home. A big 3 hours coming up, including the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and all the juicy stories inside. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Ben, thank you. Good evening. Here's your latest stories from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has ordered a national statutory inquiry into grooming gangs after a major review reportedly found white British girls were ignored for fear of racism. Sir Keir Starmer says he accepts the recommendation from Baroness Casey, who was asked to carry out a national audit by the government earlier this year. Her report, due next week, is expected to link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin. The Prime Minister has previously warned a new inquiry could delay justice for victims, but tonight he said it's the right thing to do on the basis of this review. Survivor Fiona Goddard told GB News the inquiry needs to look at prevention.
The victims do not need another whitewash, they do not need another cover-up. This needs to be done properly, to a full scale, with accountability, with everything open to the public, and we need to also be looking at developing framework going forward in prevention of these crimes.
RAF fighter jets have been deployed to the Middle East to provide contingency support across the region following intense crossfire between Iran and Israel. Iran launched waves of ballistic missiles at Israel in retaliation for Friday's strikes, which hit nuclear sites and killed 6 scientists and senior commanders. Israeli officials say 3 people have been killed there, while Iranian state media reports at least 60 dead in Tehran. Iran is now warning it will target UK, US and French bases and ships in the region if they step in to defend Israel. A manhunt is underway in the US state of Minnesota after a politician and her husband were shot and killed in their home in what authorities are calling a politically motivated attack. The state governor confirmed that State Representative Melissa Holtman and her husband were killed in the shooting in the city of Minneapolis. Another politician and his wife were also shot, but they are being treated. The suspect was reportedly posing as a police officer and escaped after an exchange of gunfire. US President Donald Trump called the violence horrific and said it will not be tolerated. And back to the UK, gun salutes, music and a full military procession, a royal birthday in spectacular style. King Charles, Queen Camilla and the Prince and Princess of Wales stepped onto the Buckingham Palace balcony to cheers from thousands on the Mall as the red arrows roared overhead in a dazzling flypast. It marked the grand finale of Trooping the Colour, a celebration of pageantry, tradition and pride, complete with marching bands echoing across central London. But this year's parade also paused for reflection. At the King's request, a minute's silence was held and black armbands worn by senior royals, honouring the 241 lives lost in Thursday's Air India plane crash. You're up to date on GB News. I'll have more for you at 10 p.m.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening, thank you for your company. The literal and metaphorical rape of Britain has carried on for far too long, and it will soon be exposed for the world to see. In huge breaking news tonight, the government has announced it will finally launch a national inquiry into the Pakistani grooming gang scandal that's plagued towns and cities across this nation for decades. The Prime Minister acted swiftly tonight in a bid to get ahead of the long-awaited Casey report, which is likely to be published on Monday. The massive U-turn, of course, comes just months after he described calls for a national inquiry as a far-right bandwagon. I'd warn everybody at home to brace themselves for what's to come in the Home Office's national audit on group-based child sexual exploitation and abuse report, authored by Baroness Louise Casey, because the details being leaked tonight are devastating. In fact, the government is so scared about the report's conclusions, it reportedly fears Southport-style riots all across Britain when the public, you at home, hear them next week. The report has apparently found that grooming gangs can be explicitly linked with men of Pakistani origin. The Prime Minister will be warned that white British girls and boys who were targeted were institutionally ignored for fear of racism. So Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, despite his reluctance for it, will be told to launch a new inquiry into the scandal. He has already, of course, acted on this tonight. And additionally, and quite interestingly, as far as I'm concerned, illegal migration, including those who come over to Britain on small boats across the Channel, is directly linked with the exploitation and violence of British girls. So look, normal people didn't need the Casey report to know that the Pakistani rape gang scandal was racist in nature, both the deliberate targeting of white English girls and boys and the cover-up that followed. We already knew that we needed a national inquiry. And we already knew that strange men from faraway lands who invade this country on small boats are a threat to the girls and women of this nation. Unfortunately, the people in charge seemingly didn't know or didn't care. That is, until now. Publication of the Casey Review will be a watershed moment in British politics. As political scientist and migration expert Mike Jones eloquently wrote on X today, he said, Labour is about to walk straight into a moral and political firestorm. And when it hits, they'll have two choices. No wiggle room, no clever triangulation, just this. Option A, pull the pin, call for a full national inquiry, open the books, let the public see the rot, even if it means dragging half the Labour machine through the muck. Or option B, kick it into the long grass, pretend Casey didn't say what she said, hope the press loses interest, protect the bad actors, not just in Labour, but across the wider state machinery. The results? It'll look exactly like what it is, a stitched-up, top-down, old-school establishment whitewash. And then the whole thing explodes. Well, Labour tonight have already made their choice. They've rightly gone for the full judge-led national inquiry. The books will be opened, the rot will be exposed, and heads should roll. And although arguably a separate issue, it has been reported that the Casey report, as I mentioned, will directly link illegal immigration to threats against women and girls in this country. I've already said for a long time now on this show, over many evenings, that small boat invaders on the Channel are a national security threat. Maybe in light of this report, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, will stop trying to gaslight the nation when talking about the small boat scandal.
And when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I do wonder what Mr Jones thinks of the incoming Casey review on Monday, bearing in mind those comments over the past couple of nights. Well, I'm joined now by GB News national reporter Charlie Peters on this. Charlie, thank you for your company. A momentous evening for the victims, for the government as well. They've got lots of questions to answer. And indeed for you. How are you feeling tonight and what's ahead?
Well, how am I feeling? That's a difficult... We'll get there eventually, maybe in a week. But it's what the survivors are feeling, which I think is so central, because I've spoken to dozens since this news came through before it broke at 6 p.m. And there is some positivity there, right? We've interviewed people on the channel this evening who are smiling, which just doesn't happen with this story. We've, as you know, we've had countless exclusives, really damning reports, stories about cover-ups, failures to prosecute individuals, failures to properly investigate this issue. Many of the survivors who've been part of that coverage have been contributing to our reaction to this announcement from the Prime Minister today. And they are feeling a sense that this could finally be the moment when they're taken seriously on a national level. There have been moments where we've put out some reports and other journalists have done work, and then in reaction to media pressure, there is a small moment where the police or some local authority says, we recognise there was wrongdoing there, we apologise and we'll do something now. But then it goes quiet. It's always been the case that it was going to take a national effort, a government-led review, covering the length and breadth of this nation, because over 50 different towns and cities are affected, according to GB News research. It's always going to take that national effort for this to be taken seriously for all victims and survivors. So there is that optimism from them. But it's cautious, because they haven't been down this specific road before, a national inquiry specifically on the grooming gangs, with statutory powers, which is a remarkable announcement. But they have been told by politicians countless times over the years, decades in fact, that they're being listened to, that they're going to take them seriously, that they're going to act on recommendations, that they're going to engage with this issue properly. The fact of the matter is, Ben, no government of any stripe has ever taken this issue seriously. And it's taken a Labour government, the party that has been caught up in this turmoil far more than any other, with more Labour councillors and local authorities being cast into disgrace through this national exploitation, child abuse, grooming scandal. It's taken Labour to make this decision. Perhaps it could only ever be Labour to do this. Perhaps it's taken this level of scrutiny on a government led by a Labour Prime Minister for them finally to resist and say, we can't actually put up with this level of scrutiny anymore. We have to take this step forward. Perhaps they've gone for option A, as Mike Jones was referring to.
Yeah,
in that
such a good tweet. Such a good tweet. Nigel Farage tweeted earlier, Charlie, that the inquiry needs to be done correctly. What does that mean, done correctly? He says, I repeat the words, done correctly. This cannot be a whitewash.
Well, there are over 7,000 victims who contributed to the ICSA report, the 7-year-long public inquiry, which cost nearly £200 million, looking at child abuse in this country. That was not done properly when it came to the grooming gang scandal. It looked at abuse by Jimmy Savile, by the Catholic Church, in boarding schools, in care homes. but its approach to the grooming gang scandal was a subsection of a sub-report that took evidence for 2 weeks. Only one survivor of the grooming gangs was a statutory core participant in the ICSA review. I think Mr Farage is thinking about that inquiry. It's all very well and good saying we're going to launch an inquiry, but it has to be done properly, and that means it needs to focus on the right people. And it needs to put the fear of God in a lot of people tonight. It needs to have thousands of social workers, police officers, government officials quaking in their boots, unable to sleep tonight because they know one day someone will sit them down and ask them, what did you do? What did you know? Did you fail to protect some children?
Well, as Mark Jones said, and I'll say it again, let's expose the rot. You know, in order to clean something up, you've really got to get stuck in. So may it be the case that, you know, everything is brought to light, and the best sunlight, as they say, Charlie, is... Sorry, the best disinfectant is sunlight. Stick with us. We're going to carry on with this over the next 3 hours. There is some big breaking news, though, in the Middle East. Israeli military says it has identified missiles launched from Iran towards Israel. This is breaking right now. These are live pictures of Israel. Let's go to our Home and Security Senator, Mark White, for the latest on this. Mark, good evening. Keep us up to date, please. What's going on?
Yeah, the alarms went off just literally a couple of minutes ago. At the moment, they're concentrated north of Tel Aviv, around the main port city of Haifa. Now, that's clearly a worrying indication. That's a major port, Israel's main port, in fact. And it may indicate that Tehran, these missiles are coming from Tehran at the moment. And we're seeing, is that Tel Aviv we're seeing now?
Yes, it is, yeah. These are the latest pictures from just moments ago.
So that's, I mean, to me, that looks as though these are intercepts that are taking place and possibly ballistic missiles coming down north of Tel Aviv, which would be consistent with the warnings that are coming through. About 20 minutes ago, less than half an hour ago, the Home Front Command warned Israeli citizens to stay close to shelters, that they were preparing for what would be a fourth wave of ballistic missile attacks from Iran. Now they have come. As I say, if they are targeting Haifa and that population centre up there, as well as, of course, a key infrastructure, that I think will be seen as a major escalation by Israel. I mean, I say that, you know, they've also said the fact that population centres in Tel Aviv and just south of Tel Aviv were targeted last night was a significant escalation as well. So if they go after a port, then I think it's very likely that we'll see Bandar Abbas in Iran targeted by the Israelis in the coming hours. I've just had a message actually through from the Israel Defence Forces. Is worth reading that out to you. They say a short while ago sirens sounded in several areas across Israel following the identification of missiles launched from Iran towards the state of Israel. The public is required to follow the instructions of the Home Front Command at this time. The Israeli Air Force is operating to intercept and strike where necessary to eliminate the threat. And they've just updated that. While they say the IDF is operating to intercept missiles launched from Iran, the Israeli Air Force is currently striking military targets in Tehran. That would be consistent with some of the images I've seen coming out of the Iranian capital, Tehran, tonight, which show their air defence systems, such as they are, because they've been pounded by the Israelis over the last couple of days, but they are firing off into the night sky there, so clearly activity there, now confirmed by the IDF. Now, the issue, the difficulty with these ballistic missiles is that some will get through, and some got through last night. A number which were, according to the Israeli Defence Forces, heading for open ground, were allowed just to impact rather than diverting scarce missile systems to try to take them out. Some others, though, got through, breached that aerial defence, Iron Dome layered missile defence system, and did impact various areas. 3 people now is the latest greatest number who were killed, according to the Israeli military last night, with dozens of others injured. So you're looking at the situation there, the area heading, or that camera pointing north from Tel Aviv towards the north and the port city of Haifa. You saw some activity in the distance there, but it might be just a bit too far from the lenses of those cameras based in central Tel Aviv to pick up exactly what is going on.
Wow, extraordinary situation developing. Mark, I'm not sure if you know much about this, but in the last maybe 20 minutes or so, Sir Keir Starmer has refused to rule out UK intervention in the Middle East and with Iran. I think some RAF jets have gone to the Middle East, probably based from Cyprus. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can you give us any more information on that?
Well, you've got basically the government, the regime in Tehran, warning that the US and the UK would be struck by Iran if they get involved in this conflict between Israel and Iran. But we know that the US, for one, was involved last night. The UK hasn't thus far, but the US was involved using a guided missile destroyer to shoot down some of those missiles, as well as the Patriot air batteries, these missiles that are across parts of the Middle East as well, at US air bases. They were used to take down some of these ballistic missiles. So the US is in there and it's involved. In recent days, they evacuated non-essential personnel and families from the areas of concern, US embassies, sort of missions in that area, and some of the bases around that area as well. So, as I say, the fact is these extra resources are going to RAF Akrotiri and other locations. We know that they've been boosting over recent weeks, actually, some of the military support at Akrotiri in terms of air refuelling tankers, now combat jets as well.
OK, Mark White, thank you very much. Really appreciated. We'll keep you viewers updated at home. These are live pictures from Tel Aviv. Iranian missiles on the way to Israel. That's the latest. Stick with us in the next 3 hours, and no doubt we'll be going back to it. For the time being, let's put our attentions back onto this grooming gang inquiry situation. Charlie Peters is still with us, and indeed my panel. Paul Richards, Linda Jubilee, Peter Blakeslee, welcome along. Panel, any questions for Charlie? Would you like to talk about
Charlie,
anything?
this has been going on for decades. I mean, I remember covering Rochdale and Rotherham at your age, which is many, many years ago. The point is, how high up does this scandal go?
It's a fun question, isn't it? Well, it's an important question as well. We don't know. We don't know because there's never been a judge-led inquiry. We've never had those questions asked of the right people. We've never known to what extent politicians in greater levels of power than, say, council leadership, for example, or ward councillors, were aware of this abuse and didn't act in it.
But not just councillors.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But going beyond that level. We've never known beyond that level. And I think if councillors or police officers are invited to get evidence and have to swear under oath to tell the truth, that could be difficult for some people. OK? And it's not just political leadership that I think need to be concerned. It's civil servant leadership. I mean, that's the real clincher for me, because you referred to the fact that you were covering this a while ago. Many of the people who were, say, detective sergeants in the 1990s, they're not detective sergeants anymore. Or, let's say, a mid-ranking social worker manager, right? They're not mid-ranking anymore. Many of these people perhaps have pensions and they've moved on into happiness, but they should still be dragged in front of a judge and asked questions. The Labour peer, Maurice Glasman, has said that if there is an inquiry, this is a Labour figure, it should have the powers of arrest, because a lot of people have gone their whole lives, decades, avoiding this scrutiny. I don't know how high it will go, but I hope to find out.
Peter?
There have been a number of courageous people that have got us to this position today. People like Maggie Oliver and her team, somebody that Charlie and I know very well. But there is someone sitting next to me who has played a very important part in achieving this today. Charlie Peters has been probative, determined and relentless with the backing of his employers, GB News, and has played a significant part in getting us to where we are today. And I applaud this young man, not only for what he's done, but what I know he was going to do in the future. And it's a privilege to be able to shake his hand and say thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. I have to say also thank you to GB News viewers, because they engage with this coverage. Investigative reporting is difficult. Convincing and gaining the trust of survivors takes years in time, and it requires, as you say, the backing of an employer to believe in that work, to think it's worthwhile. And GB News has done that. And I should say, tonight we've led on this coverage, as you'd expect, for a very long time. Not everyone else has done that. And people need to ask, perhaps it's because they haven't got connections to many of the survivors to do that.
And it was all those years ago where you did that documentary on the grooming gangs, and it was GB News who took it. Nobody else would even touch it.
Only GB News wanted that work.
Yeah, there we go. Right, Charlie, thank you very much. We'll be catching up throughout the show. Up next, millions of crimes. And I think Peter Blexley will have something to say about this. Millions of crimes, as you probably know, go unsolved as police face funding shortfalls in the UK. The big question, though, is have police just simply given up fighting crime? That's next. Stick with us.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Huge breaking news this evening.
The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has ordered a full-scale national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal.
Yes, indeed. If you've just tuned in tonight, the government has finally announced it will launch a national inquiry into the Pakistani grooming gang scandal that's, quite frankly, plagued towns and cities across this nation for decades. Is this the start of real justice? We'll be keeping tabs on this over the next 2.5 hours. Stick with us. Right, we move on, because millions of crimes in Britain go unsolved each year, with just 7%, yes, 7% leading to charges. Theft, vandalism, the rates are especially high, leaving many victims feeling abandoned. Police now face a growing £1.2 billion funding shortfall, despite a small government increase barely covering inflation. And in hotspots such as London's Oxford Street, and I've seen this myself with my own eyes, phone snatchings have skyrocketed, with 99% of cases unsolved, while thieves use electric bikes to escape. So the big question is, have the police given up fighting crime? Well, I'm joined now by retired Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville and the former Met Chief Detective Superintendent Kevin Hurley. Good evening, chaps. Thanks for your company. Mike, let's start with you. Have our coppers just given up?
Well, it would seem to be so, wouldn't it? I mean, I did a Freedom of Information Act request and found that 70% of the Metropolitan Police hadn't had an arrest in 1 year. Now, I don't know about Kevin, but my record was 4 arrests in 1 day. And we see the amount of crime solved, and you say those figures, it's about 1% of thefts that are solved, 5% of burglaries. People are only reporting things because they've got insurance. If you're poor and you haven't got insurance, people just simply don't report these things. And the annual police budget is something like £20 billion. And I ask you, and I ask the viewers this, that if we gave the police £40 billion, would they do anything with it? Would they fight crime? Would they be preventing crime? Or would they be doing policing tweets or a new diversity programme or a race action plan? I suspect it would be the latter. And it's really at the top that the leadership needs to change, because I really do think they're not focused on preventing and detecting crime.
Kevin, what's your take on that? If the police had their budget doubled, do you think things would get better, or is it just a competence problem?
Well, I pretty much agree with a lot that Mike has said there, actually, but just to give a bit of balance here, let's remember that the prisons are stuffed to bursting, and it wasn't the RSPCA that put them there, it was in fact the police. So there are coppers out there still doing that, doing good work, and they're still delivering. As we see at the moment, there's a murder trial just been going on where a police officer literally had his hand chopped off by a samurai sword and another one badly stabbed when they ran towards him. So there are cops doing it, but Mike's point is bang on the money. This is an issue of leadership at the very top of the police, and I might add from the politicians, because it is true that the budget has been marginally increased, which will take account of inflation. But the reality of it is we've increased our population in the UK by more than 10 million in recent years, a large number of whom do not come from the UK. So they bring the values and standards of behaviour that might be found elsewhere in the world.
Well, Kevin, some people... sorry, go. Finish your point. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. They bring the values and standards that might be found elsewhere in the world that are policed very, very differently to those that we've used previously in the UK. The bottom line on it is police training, the courts, the judges, the prisons, the probation service have all been slashed. So even if the police did arrest more people, there's nowhere for them to go. But the bottom line is the police aren't as effective as they should be. They are scared to death, many of them these days, to face confrontation. And indeed, if we look at that dreadful case in Dorset last week, where a clear thief taker, a brave copper, took on a yob with a knife who'd previously assaulted an old man, fought him while a couple of his own colleagues stood back and were kind of dithering, oh, what are we going to do? You could see them in the background.
I saw.
And what did the Assistant Chief Constable do? But she sacked him for calling him a bitch and using the F word. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, what a
joke.
joke.
How do you expect anyone to get stuck in and be a thief taker or deal with confrontation? And that's the level of leadership. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, indeed. Mike, I was going to ask this question to Kevin when he mentioned it. He touched on migration and changing of demographics and cultures. I mean, some people watching this would say, well, that's a bit racist or bigoted, but actually, isn't that the truth?
It's the truth. And let's be really factual about this. The police cannot help who commits crime. So when you get things like the Baroness Casey report that says, oh, the police are 7 times more likely to stop and search black people, but then it never includes the crime figures. For example, young black men, who are about 2 or 3% of London's population, commit 60% of the murders by knife crime. These young officers on the street, they can't help who commits crime. We see cultures coming over here who treat women so badly. Somalians, who are something like 20% more likely to commit sexual offences, yet we expect young officers to deal with this, and then they can just be criticised by politicians and the establishment. It's absolutely outrageous. I think the solution is, to be quite honest, is to put me and Kevin Hurley in charge of the police, because then we would sort things out. Because whilst we might disagree on some things, we agree on a lot.
Yeah, throw Peter Bleksley in the mix as well, and you've got a fearsome trio there. Thank you, chaps. Appreciate it. Mike Neville and Kevin Hurley, thanks for your company this evening. Right, we're counting down to your best summer so far with £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. It could be yours, it could be in your bank account. It's the biggest cash giveaway to date. Here's all the details you need to win.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, very good luck to you on that. Coming up next, chaos, absolute chaos in the Middle East as Iran warns the UK, the US and France against assisting Israel. However, in the last 30 minutes or so, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has refused to rule out UK intervention against Iran. And indeed, we are sending a couple of RAF jets that way as well. Would you support UK intervention in the Middle East? Would you like to join forces with Israel, or is it simply not our problem? That's next.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some big thunderstorms likely over northern Spain and southern France during this weekend. It's still pretty hot across much of Italy. Plenty of fine weather across the Greek islands. Not too hot here as the breeze is coming down from the north, pleasant, with temperatures mostly in the 20s. Fine weather too across much of Croatia. The heat's continuing in Italy, and the heat and humidity sparking some thunderstorms over the Pyrenees and extending up into southern parts of France. Chance of a heavy shower in Rome by Tuesday, but still pretty hot here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. After a thundery start to the weekend, the second half offers something a little bit calmer for us all. There is still quite a damp, dreary evening to come, particularly for areas of Scotland. Some areas of rain still persisting, but generally come midnight they will be turning lighter and patchier in nature. Elsewhere there will be some clear spells as well, a touch of hill and coastal fog in places, but it's not going to be too chilly by any means. Temperatures comfortably in double-digit figures for many of us as we start off Sunday morning. Some of that rain still will be lingering across the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow morning, and we are also going to see another area of rain just slip its way into the northwest of Scotland, particularly for the Outer Hebrides and later on into the Highlands, parts of Argyll and Bute, that will also arrive into Northern Ireland later on in the morning. So a little damp here, but certainly the rain will be lighter and less intense than what we've seen around today. Some sunny spells developing across England and Wales, but there will be a scattering of showers wanting to pop up across central regions, and those will slowly push their way towards the southeast as we head into the afternoon. So can't rule out the odd shower here, but generally a nice slice of sunshine developing for areas in between. And with lighter winds as well tomorrow, it will be feeling relatively pleasant where you do see that sunshine. Highs a little down compared to the temperatures we've seen today, but still a very comfortable 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, generally around high teens for Scotland and Northern Ireland. As we head into the new week, we're watching as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. Slow progress though, so it's still allowing these weather fronts to just skirt across the far north, and so there will be some further outbreaks of mainly light rain again for areas of Scotland, and then a bit of a brisk breeze here. But for the rest of the UK, with that high pressure beginning to influence us, there will be a good amount of sunny spells arriving once again, and temperatures not faring too badly. It's the sunshine that will become increasingly lengthy as we head into the rest of this week, and temperatures continuing to climb mid to high 20s for some of us. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has ordered a full-scale national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. Yes, welcome to Ben Leo's Tonight. A very quick recap on that news. Huge breaking news tonight. The government has, as Charlie Peters said a bit earlier, finally launched, or announced at least, it will launch a national inquiry into the Pakistani grooming gang scandal that's plagued towns and cities all across the UK for decades. More of that in the next hour or so. But we move on because Israeli military says it's identified missiles launched from Iran towards Israel tonight. This is as chaos continues in the Middle East. Iran warning the UK, the US and France against assisting Israel by threatening their bases and ships in the region. RAF fighter jets have been sent to the Middle East from Cyprus to provide so-called contingency support across the region. That's according to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. But interestingly tonight, he has refused to rule out UK intervention. I'm joined now by the Vice President of the National Union for Democracy in Iran, Cameron Councillor. Cameron, thank you for your company. So much to talk about here. It's a fast-developing story. Not least 100 missiles making their way from Iran to Israel tonight. Tell us about that, please, Cameron.
Well, you're exactly right. It's the second night of the Islamic Republic retaliating for Israel strikes across the country. A brief recap on these strikes for your viewers. This has been an absolute devastating blow to the regime in Iran, which has now been in power for 46 years. Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader or dictator who's ruled the country with an iron fist for more than 30 years without facing a single free election in his life, in one night had the vast majority of his high military and political command knocked out in a series of strikes across Iran's capital, Tehran, and across the country. Now, this was a huge strategic blow to the regime, which we've seen in their real lack of ability to respond in any comprehensive way to the Israeli strikes, but it was also a huge psychological and mental blow to the regime. The individuals who were eliminated, the head of the high command of Iran's armed forces, the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, a senior advisor to the supreme leader, all of these individuals were killed in the middle of the night, often in their own homes, in their ritzy apartments in the northern parts of Tehran, and they're all dead. And so Ali Khamenei woke up in the morning without his generals to call, without his advisors to call, and unable to summon those individuals he usually does for such retaliation. So the retaliations are continuing tonight against Israel from the Islamic Republic, but the blow that the Israelis dealt psychologically and strategically was significant.
Cameron, can you give us some insight, some flavour into how everyday normal Iranians are perceiving this situation? What's their view on the Ayatollahs? Do they want the days of old in Iran? Do they want proper democracy back? What's their thoughts and feelings? Do they want Israel to win?
There's probably no country in the world with a greater chasm between its people and its government. The regime's own polls that have leaked have shown that the vast majority of people are against the Islamic Republic. For the past several years, we've seen uprising after uprising, protest after protest, with Iranians going to the street and fighting against the Islamic Republic. So they certainly don't want this regime. You'll see many Iranians inside the country celebrating the fact that, for example, the head of the IRGC, Hossein Salami, was killed in his home. This is a man who's responsible for ordering the brutal crackdown on Iranians, the rape of women, the murder of children, the slaughter of innocent protesters. And so Iranians are quite pleased when somebody like that is eliminated. Of course, the ramifications of what's going on, we don't know where it will lead, but many Iranians are hopeful that this will lead to a more even playing field for them, that the regime that has held them hostage really for 46 years might be weakened such that they can have an upper hand finally and take their country back. Across the country, we're hearing chants as these bombs are falling, or these missiles rather are falling, of death to the dictator, death to Ali Khamenei. And so we really are at a point where the regime is weaker than it ever has been in 46 years. And the vast majority of people inside the country are against the regime, and many are yearning to return to a time prior to 1979 when Iran had good relations with its neighbors, its Arab neighbors, Israel, and also its European neighbors and countries across the West.
Cameron, thank you so much for that insight. Really appreciate it. Cameron Khan Sarinia, the Vice President of the National Union for Democracy in Iran. Thank you, Cameron. And these are live pictures now of Tel Aviv. Just as a recap, 100 missiles making their way from Iran to Israel tonight. And Sir Keir Starmer, I'll ask when we have time after the break, Paul Richards, about this, but Sir Keir Starmer tonight refusing to rule out UK intervention in Iran. RAF jets have gone from Cyprus to the area for what the Prime Minister describes as contingency support. I'm not quite sure what that means. But, yeah, would you support, at home, the viewers, would you support UK intervention in Iran? Right, let's move on. The Tameside councillor, did you hear this story? He's a Conservative. He faces a standards hearing on Monday. He could be sacked, he could lose his job, because he said that the Leeds riots last year were down to multiculturalism. He's live next.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has ordered a full-scale national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal.
Yes, indeed. If you've just tuned in, big breaking news tonight. The government has announced, as Charlie Peters said earlier, it will finally launch a national inquiry into the Pakistani grooming gang scandal that's plagued towns and cities all across the nation for decades. I am quite sure this will be front and centre of all the newspapers we're going to get stuck into in the next, 15 minutes or so. So stick with us. Let's move on. A Tameside councillor faces a standards hearing on Monday over comments he made on Facebook blaming multiculturalism, or the failure of it, for the 2024 Leeds riots. So the post drew complaints, including from ex-MP Jim Fitzpatrick, who reported the councillor to the police. So the councillor denies any wrongdoing, calling the probe, a political attack on him. And I'm joined by the man himself now, Tory councillor for Stalybridge South, Liam Billington. Liam, welcome along.
Nice to meet you.
Good evening to you. So just tell us briefly, so you saw the riots were kicking off in Hares Hills, right?
Yeah.
You went on Facebook. What did you say?
I said it's a failure of multiculturalism. You saw those riots and, you know, they were from immigrant backgrounds, which were causing all that trouble. And, you know, I'm seeing that those issues come up in my area, in Stalybridge and across Tameside. And I think, you know, something needs to be done about that. So I've said, you know, that we need to stop paying for interpreters. I've also called for a landlord tax on people that are, or landlords that are booting out residents and making money from Serco and all that. And stop money for all these lefty charities supporting immigration.
So who grassed you up?
It was a former Labour councillor who lost his seat.
Right, and you now face a standards hearing on Monday. You mentioned something about Angela Rayner. She wants to change what?
So Angela Rayner wants to up standards rules for councillors. And basically, the rules for councillors will be more stringent than those for an MP. And I think it's totally wrong, because one of the things that they're saying in the white paper is that if there's more than 2 complaints about a councillor, that they can then remove that councillor from office and bar them from standing again.
Regardless if the complaints were upheld or not?
Well, obviously, if they're found guilty of the complaints, then...
So 2 strikes, you're out?
Yeah, 2 strikes, you're out, yeah.
Paul Richards, you're with us now, of course. You argue that it's a good thing, right, that councillors have high standards?
Well, I think councillors should be held to an incredibly high standard.
Higher than MPs?
Because they are... Well, maybe we need to look at those rules too. But, I mean, Angela Rayner's... It's only an idea. Don't forget, this is not in legislation yet. But the idea that you would have these high standards for the elected councillors who are in charge of enormous swathes of public services, responsible for vast millions of public service money, you know, I just think that they should be held to a high account. And it sounds like Liam is complaining. But actually, you're going through a process. You don't know the outcome yet, do you? So
no, I don't know the outcome.
You are going to be just like any other councillor, being quizzed on what you did or didn't do, and the outcome will be there for all to see. But what's wrong with that?
Well, I own it, but the thing is, I'm in a very heavily Labour-dominated council, and I'm up against 4 Labour councillors on Monday. Who all don't like me. So I think we know what the decision is. They're going to say, you know, like, well, I did do wrong, and then I'm going to get a slap on the wrist as a result of it. It's just an absolute joke. So I am aware that this investigation so far has cost £8,000 to the taxpayer.
Wow, really?
Yeah. And it's going to cost more, because the council are demanding that I should go on diversity training, but the HR director said, can we have a chemistry call to discuss your needs? And I just went, well, You know, because that's not my thing at all. I'm not into
a
chemistry call.
A chemistry call?
Yeah, exactly.
What is that?
Exactly.
Well, it's fairly common in corporate life. I mean, I'm not saying they're right, I'm not saying they're wrong.
Please tell me what a chemistry call is.
It's to establish the personalities involved and the type of characters involved.
Does it involve test tubes and a Bunsen burner?
What a load of nonsense.
I think it's a waste of time, to be honest.
Very quickly, we did contact Tameside Council and Jim Fitzpatrick, who I described it as grassing Liam up for comment, and are awaiting a response. We also understand that if a councillor is found to have failed to comply with the Code of Conduct, the committee has the power to recommend stripping them of responsibilities, public bodies and council facilities such as the Wi-Fi and email access. So, Liam, if you're found guilty as charged on Monday, you will be stripped of the Wi-Fi password.
Yeah, well, I tether my phone anyway because it's slow.
Linda, Linda,
yes.
Did he deserve to be dragged into a standards hearing for saying multiculturalism has failed?
I think if you go before a panel, there should never be a panel that's completely populated by politicians from the opposite party to you. That's the issue here, isn't it? That's what you're worried about.
Oh, I'm not worried at all because the public agree with me. I've had lots of support on...
Yeah, but you want to speak up for unfairness.
Yeah.
OK, thank you very much. Don't forget, you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio too, on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News on TuneIn into your smart speaker. All the newspaper front pages coming up next. Big stories, no prizes for guessing what's on the front. We're going to get stuck into them in just a tick. Stay with us. Bethany Elsie tonight.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. After a thundery start to the weekend, the second half offers something a little bit calmer for us all. It is still quite a damp, dreary evening to come, particularly for areas of Scotland. Some areas of rain still persisting, but generally come midnight they will be turning lighter and patchier in nature. Elsewhere there will be some clear spells as well, a touch of hill and coastal fog in places, but it's not going to be too chilly by any means. Temperatures comfortably in double-digit figures for many of us as we start off Sunday morning. Some of that rain still will be lingering across the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow morning, and we are also going to see another area of rain just slip its way into the northwest of Scotland, particularly for the Outer Hebrides and later on into the Highlands, parts of Argyll and Bute, that will also arrive into Northern Ireland later on in the morning. So a little damp here, but certainly the rain will be lighter and less intense than what we've seen around today. Some sunny spells developing across England and Wales, but there will be a scattering of showers wanting to pop up across central regions, and those will slowly push their way towards the southeast as we head into the afternoon. So can't rule out the odd shower here, but generally a nice slice of sunshine developing for areas in between. And with lighter winds as well tomorrow, it will be feeling relatively pleasant where you do see that sunshine. Highs a little down compared to the temperatures we've seen today, but still a very comfortable 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. Generally around high teens for Scotland and Northern Ireland. As we head into the new week, we're watching as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. Slow progress though, so it's still allowing these weather fronts to just skirt across the far north, and so there will be some further outbreaks of mainly light rain again for areas of Scotland and a bit of a brisk breeze here. But for the rest of the UK, with that high pressure beginning to influence us, there will be a good amount of sunny spells arriving once again, and temperatures not faring too badly. It's the sunshine that will become increasingly lengthy as we head into the rest of this week, and temperatures continuing to climb mid to high 20s for some of us. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good evening to you, it's 10 p.m, I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight.
Now, the Prime Minister has ordered a judge-led national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. In January, he said people calling for it were jumping on a far-right bandwagon. But now, in June, it's an announcement he's making with cautious optimism with survivors and their families right around the country.
Thanks, Charlie. And elsewhere tonight, Sir Keir Starmer has directly challenged Donald Trump by declaring that Canada, quote, is an independent, sovereign country and a much-valued member of the Commonwealth. And as we broke earlier, on the front pages of The Sun and the Sunday Telegraph tomorrow, there they are. The PM does a U-turn, a massive U-turn, on the grooming gangs inquiry. And inside the papers, the Sun on Sunday investigation has found that illegal migrants are working cash-in-hand jobs, who'd have thought, but contributing to a £260 billion illegal economy, equivalent to 10% of Britain's entire output. And it's war. Fresh attacks in Israel. Here are the latest pictures on your screen now. Iran says missiles and drones, up to 100 of them, have hit military targets in Israel. Footage there of missiles over Haifa and Jerusalem, where several missiles have been seen. The Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has spoken to his Israeli counterpart and called for a de-escalation of tensions in the Middle East. And more RAF jets are being sent to the area tonight. Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has said that he refuses, at this point, to rule out the UK getting involved. I'll be joined on the panel tonight by the former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, the journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, and the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. And as Iranian missiles head over to Israel, look who's on the plane home.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person.
Oh, dearie me. Big 2 hours coming up, including all the newspaper front pages coming imminently. First, though, your news headlines with Bethany Elsie.
Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 10 o'clock. The Prime Minister has ordered a national statutory inquiry into grooming gangs after a major review reportedly found white British girls were ignored for fear of racism. Sir Keir Starmer says he accepts the recommendation from Baroness Casey, who was asked to carry out a national audit by the government earlier this year. Her report, due next week, is expected to link the scandal to men of Pakistani origin. The Prime Minister has previously warned a new inquiry could delay justice for victims, but tonight he said it was the right thing to do. Survivor Fiona Goddard told GB News the inquiry needs to look at prevention.
The victims do not need another whitewash, they do not need another cover-up. This needs to be done properly, to a full scale, with accountability, with everything open to the public, and we need to also be looking at developing framework going forward in prevention of these crimes.
Iran has launched a new wave of ballistic missiles at Israel tonight. These are the latest pictures. It shows several missiles over Jerusalem. Iranian state TV reports 100 missiles have been launched in their second wave of attacks. Israeli military has ordered residents to take shelter and says it's continuing to strike military targets in Tehran. It follows Friday's strikes by Israel, which hit nuclear sites in Iran. Israeli officials say 3 people have been killed in the crossfire so far, while 60 are reported dead in Tehran. Iran has threatened to target UK, US and French bases in the region if they defend Israel. The UK has tonight deployed RAF fighter jets to the Middle East to provide contingency support. A manhunt is underway in the US state of Minnesota after a politician and her husband were shot and killed in their home in what authorities are calling a politically motivated attack. The state governor confirmed that Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed in the shooting in the city of Minneapolis. Another politician and his wife were also shot, but they are being treated. The suspect was reportedly posing as a police officer and escaped after an exchange of gunfire. US President Donald Trump called the violence horrific and said it will not be tolerated. You're up to date. I'll bring you more at 11 p.m.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening. Welcome along to Ben Leo tonight. A massive show, indeed a massive evening so far of many, many big news stories, not least the big breaking issue of the evening. Sir Keir Starmer has announced he will launch a national statutory inquiry, a judge-led inquiry, into the grooming gang scandal. Who better to speak to than Charlie Peters, GB News national reporter, who's been on this for many, many years now. Charlie, what's the latest on this, please?
Well, as you say, there's been this significant U-turn, probably the biggest U-turn of Starmer's premiership so far. Let's go back to January. GB News revealed that Oldham Council had made a request for a government-led inquiry into grooming gangs in the town. It was rejected. We revealed that at the time, and it led to 2 weeks of serious backlash. Elon Musk shared our reporting. It went like wildfire all around the world. It was quite remarkable. But also politicians got involved. It sparked that public conversation about the issue. And we saw this pressure mount for a national inquiry, not just government-led inquiries into local areas. The government said they didn't want it. In January, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, said there would be instead 5 localised inquiries like we've already had in Telford, Rochdale, Oldham and Rotherham. But then in April, they said that they would instead be looking at locally led work after receiving feedback from local authorities. The Conservatives said that those measures announced in January had been watered down. All in the background, Baroness Louise Casey was conducting a rapid audit, which the Home Secretary also announced in January. It's finally been sent to Downing Street this week, and as a preparation for it being released publicly next week, the government has been taking swift legislative action, including, we're learning tonight, that Sir Keir Starmer now goes against what he said in January. He's heard this process from Baroness Louise Casey, and instead now he thinks that we do need a judge-led public national inquiry with statutory powers to get to the bottom of this crisis. It's been welcomed by many Labour MPs. Sarah Champion, who's been calling for this for a long time, said that this will get to the bottom of the truth. It will give survivors some hope and some trust. Paul Waugh, who we had on the programme earlier this evening for Rochdale, another Labour MP, he's also welcomed this announcement. The Conservatives and Reform have both said that this is a U-turn. Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, has said that Sir Keir Starmer is acting more as a lawyer than a leader. He's waited 6 months following the process. He could have just announced this in January after public pressure. So it is a big moment. I have to say, Ben, our inbox, whenever we do stories on grooming gangs, it gets flooded with new sources, new people coming forward, new information, no more so than tonight, because we've heard from many people who are saying that they might now come forward and speak. Wow. Because if they've got that police protection, if they've got a judge-led investigation, if they've got a guarantee that they'll be listened to and that the whole truth will be heard, finally they've got the power to come forward. I've just heard from a police officer, a former police officer, who said that then when they were patrolling a certain part of the country where this has happened, that they were told to not go to specific areas where they knew this was an issue. I hope that that person, of course I won't name them, I hope that that person will go forward and contribute to this inquiry. This is the first time they said they've ever spoken out.
That's
ever shared this information. And so much more of that, Ben, will now come forward.
Even that just little anecdote there is just mind-blowing. And, of course, the details of the Casey review, which is expected to be published, Monday now, I guess. It was Wednesday, but it'll probably be brought forward. It says in there, or is expected to say, that, of course, as we all knew anyway, that this was covered up because institutionally covered up, but over fears of accusations of racism.
Yeah, and I think that's been a consistent pattern in all the towns we've looked at. But it really goes so much further than that. It's not just political correctness that people are nervous about. This is about corruption and collusion. The next layer of investigation about this scandal, I've always said this, especially with our reporting on the organised networks, is that the next stage is going to reveal the extent to which organised criminal gangs were operating these abuse gangs, these grooming abuse gangs. They were trafficking children all over the country, that many of them were interlinked through previous criminal enterprises, through drug gangs, for example. And this is not just sort of localised gangs operating in their various towns and cities. These were interlinked groups. And I think there's serious discussions to be had about cousin marriage, about kinship, about family members in the police, protecting family members in abuse gangs, about family members in local authorities, looking the other way when their friends and families are involved in abuse. All of that needs to be out in the open next, and I hope that is what will happen now. And Ben, I'm very happy to say that we're joined now by Lucia Ree, who is from Oldham. She's a campaigner for grooming gang survivors in that town. Lucia, thank you so much for joining us on GB News this evening. Now, as we were saying, in January, the Oldham Council made a request that we revealed had been rejected by the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, for a local inquiry. But the council has said tonight that they are supporting this national inquiry that's been announced as part of the new proposals, saying that that's what they've always wanted. What's your feeling in Oldham tonight? Have you got hope about this new national inquiry?
When we woke up this morning, I don't think any of us thought this is what the day was going to bring. It's come as a complete shock. But with regards to local feeling and our council, our Oldham Labour-run council, for 6 years they've rejected the request of this. But tonight they're saying they welcome it. So, you know, I think there's a lot of buzzwords from authorities, and there's been too many systematic failures across the country, not just in Oldham. And we've said from the very start we'd always cooperatively work with whatever we was given locally, but we always thought a national direction was needed and accountability must come first. So we are just delighted that this is now going to be the way forward, and we just hope that it's done correctly. As we've seen that Nigel Farage has tweeted that tonight, and but the whole nation will be watching, so I'm hoping there's not going to be much room for error. I think it's going to be the most scrutinised inquiry ever.
Well, Lucia,
so
we know
that'll make it right.
Yeah, we know that Oldham is one of the 5 towns that's been selected for a local inquiry in January. The government is yet to announce where the other 4 will be almost 6 months on. However, they've also said tonight, from sources in the government, told GB News that the local inquiries will feed into the national inquiry. How does that make you feel? Are you worried that some people who have evidence in Oldham will speak to just the local inquiry, but not necessarily the national level? We've got too many inquiries now. Should we just have the national one, or do you support both?
I support both, and we actually met with Tom Crowther last week and we asked him that question. So, you know, his response to that was that if he will speak to people, if they do not bring the evidence that he felt he could get from them, you know, he'll be able to feed this through. So it leaves, I'm hoping it doesn't leave any margin for error for things like this. So I think if it feeds through to it, it's very welcomed.
Just for our viewers and listeners, Tom Crowther is the barrister who was in charge of the Telford inquiry. He's also been appointed to run the inquiry in Oldham. And Lucia, we're also hearing that the report that Baroness Casey could be putting out as early as next week, published by the government as early as Monday, could include information that the government was worried would lead to social unrest. It could have led, they say, to rioting. Now, what was your reaction when you heard that being reported over the weekend? Does that strike you as something that could have happened?
I don't think so, because, you know, you'll get people of all different backgrounds, races, religions speaking out about this. They're not on the ground. You know, any decent person isn't going to be against this being investigated. And so, I know in Oldham there are lots of people that you know, want to support it, and they will support it.
Yeah, it sort of tracks with polling that GB News did in January. We found that actually the vast majority of people, regardless of their background, supported a national inquiry. And actually, when you asked ethnic minority Britons, they were more likely to back the death penalty for child sexual exploitation perpetrators. So I think a lot of people, Lucia, they say that they're very nervous about the reaction from certain communities. Perhaps Pakistanis might get nervous about this. But really, when you look at the detail, everyone in the country, all groups, generally support this sort of intervention.
Yeah, I think it's more scaremongering, and you know, if we'd have gone off the Prime Minister's say so, we're all far right for wanting this, and like you know, I've seen you covered today. You know, he's done his U-turn. We're obviously not far right anymore, and it'll be the same with people from ethnic backgrounds. You know, I doubt there'll be riots over this. I think it'll be welcomed by those communities because they don't want to be tarred with this brush.
Lucia, a few months ago, GB News revealed that there was guidance in the Home Office which said that people who were concerned about grooming gangs, drawing a link between the overrepresentation of Pakistanis, were extremists, that this was essentially right-wing propaganda. Now, we're expecting Baroness Casey to draw that same conclusion, that there was an overrepresentation of Pakistanis who did target white girls and that that abuse was ignored for political correctness. Do you think now that this investigation being launched and Baroness Casey's report being published and accepted, could that lead, do you think, to a massive overhaul of our understanding of this issue at all levels, including within sort of government departments?
Yeah, because it's too often that difficult truths have been sidestepped because people were more interested in managing reputations than addressing failures. And we need this narrative to go away. You know, it's not wrong to speak of this, and a fact's a fact. And abuse happens in all strands of life, and we know that and we understand that. And it happens in all walks of life. But this particular strand is an issue in this country. So it's not wrong to talk about it, and it needs to be talked about it. And you've got to think about the survivors and their families and who it's affected. You know, it's a generational thing, this, that affects so many people. It affects the parents, it affects the children of those who've been abused, and we've got to openly speak about it. We're not ashamed to say that this is what we want to put right.
Lucia, there'll be many people, I think, around the country who'll be having sleepless nights tonight because they knew about this scandal in many different parts of the country and they failed to act. They now face being dragged in front of a judge to tell the truth about what they knew and what they failed to do. What's your message to those people tonight?
They need to be very honest. They need to speak from the heart, and they know that they need to do right by these survivors. There's no more room for political games with these survivors' lives. They can't continue to be played with. They've been failed enough times already, and you know, it's time to put this to bed now and get it straight, and let's show the world how this country deals with child sexual exploitation.
Lucia, thank you so much. Oldham campaigner, thank you for coming on Ben Leo tonight on GB News this evening.
Charlie, thanks for that. Let's take a quick look at the front pages to see what else is hitting the headlines. Let's start with the Mail on Sunday tomorrow. The front page reads, "You're turned on by Lucy Letby in her uniform." I mean, this is quite extraordinary. So an expert witness whose evidence helped to convict Lucy Letby is at the centre, says the Mail, of an extraordinary row after claiming that the nurse's supporters were motivated by a sexual attraction to pretty young blonde females. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. We'll maybe get stuck into that very shortly. The Sun on Sunday, the RAF sent in over Iran crisis. Typhoon fighter jets were last night scrambled to the Middle East amid the spiralling Israel-Iran conflict. And, of course, Sir Keir Starmer refusing to rule out UK intervention. Just a little, if you look at the very top left-hand page, if you're looking at watching TV now, just a little smidge on the grooming gangs, which, for me, my old paper, The Sun, a little bit surprising. I think it maybe warrants more than that, but there we go. The Sunday Telegraph doing a better job, giving it more exposure. The PM caves in on grooming gangs inquiry, and a nice picture there of the firm, as the Telegraph described them, on the balcony at Buckingham Palace for trooping the colour earlier today. Paul Richards, you wanted to talk about the grooming gangs very quickly. I've got a couple of points for you, actually. So, does Sir Keir Starmer look weak amid this? Because it was only in January that he said calls for a national inquiry were a far-right bandwagon. Now he's, as Kemi Badenoch has said quite eloquently, I think, he's listened to Baroness Casey and like a lawyer, you know, without his own sort of sense of morality or judgment, just flips on a dime. And then secondly, Downing Street tonight was reportedly so concerned about the detail of this report that they were bracing themselves for Southport-style riots. I mean, incredible.
Well, I think the announcement of a judge-led inquiry by the Prime Minister has been welcomed across the political spectrum, including amongst very many Labour MPs who've been calling for this either publicly or behind the scenes. I think it's absolutely right that Keir Starmer waited for the Louise Casey report to be published because that was commissioned by the government and that was drawing on new evidence. Some of the stuff that Charlie's talked about, new evidence has come to light even in recent weeks. So I know Louise Casey. She is the opposite of a sort of an establishment woke stooge. She is absolutely no nonsense. She's prepared to crack heads to get the job done. And I think that's why it was, she was the right person to do this and why it was right to wait for what she said. And having read that, the Prime Minister has now acted with great alacrity to do the thing that people have been demanding, a full national inquiry led by a judge to get to the bottom of this. Now, Kemi Badenoch, you mentioned, has just put a statement out saying, "We won," in inverted commas.
Where did she put that? On X?
It is on an email that has gone to the Conservative Party.
We won what? What's she referring to?
Well, she's referring to the idea that she's taking credit from the Conservative Party for winning the idea of a national judge-led inquiry, right? Now, that is as hypocritical as you can get, given that they were in government and they could have done some of these things when they were in government. So she needs to back off that. But the most important thing, surely, is not self-congratulation or whose, victory is this. This is just the start of a process, not the end of a process. And the most important thing, Ben, is justice.
Yeah, of course. Can I ask Charlie about the Tory situation there? Kemi Badenoch, what's your take on that?
Well, it's completely right. They now know more than they did, perhaps a couple of years ago when they were in power. But the Labour government, this Labour government, is using stronger language about grooming gangs, even as they're almost in retreat on the issue, than any Conservative Party government ever has. When Suella Braverman launched the Grooming Gangs Task Force in April 2023 in the back of our expose around the country, Suella Braverman directly said, we do have a problem with Pakistanis overrepresented in this sort of abuse. That needs to be dealt with. Rishi Sunak couldn't back her up. He was terrified of it. I couldn't find a single Conservative MP who would come out and say Suella's right. They were all petrified that they'd be criticised widely. The Overton window has moved on now, I think in part because of this channel, exposing how widespread this issue is. But now you find Labour ministers, Labour politicians, more willing to use stark language like that than you do Conservatives. Maurice Glasman, a Labour peer, is calling for people to be arrested and dragged in front of a judge-led inquiry if they don't contribute. I've never heard a Conservative peer say that.
Yeah. Paul, can I just read that? Can you pass me your phone? Can I just see that email? So this is an email which Paul Richards, the Tories have sent this out. It says, "Dear friend, Keir Starmer has finally bowed to pressure and agreed to a national statutory inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. This is a crucial step forward." Blah, blah, blah. The subject title reads, "We won. Grooming gang inquiry announced. Peter, a quick point from you on this.
Yeah, it's just tasteless. It's just a tasteless thing to say.
The right word.
But there's a problem about language here. And if we look at that 7 that got found guilty this week, front page of the Telegraph, yet again, people are saying, and other media outlets, these children came from troubled backgrounds. That kind of language is utterly unacceptable. It's like saying a woman deserved to be raped because she wore a short skirt out on an evening. That language is unacceptable. These are vulnerable kids. These weren't grooming gangs, they were child rape gangs. Get your language right.
Indeed. And Charlie, I heard you making the point earlier today, Charlie, that lots of fathers, parents were involved in trying to protect their kids. They were arrested because they reacted so badly. So they weren't just from broken homes.
Completely. And when people say they're from troubled backgrounds, it generates this idea that there is a type of victim, that you have to belong to a specific sort of background in order to be part of this national scandal. There are plenty of middle-class children who had beautiful, perfect upbringings who were targeted by these organised criminal groups. But those survivors are less likely to speak out because they don't want to be tarred as being troubled or anything like that. Or
and either way, it's irrelevant because they were children.
Precisely.
Targeted children, targeted for rape by paedophiles.
Indeed. All right, well, on that mic drop, we'll head to a break. Coming up, Linda, I'll get your thoughts on this just after the break. We are pushed for time, apologies. After the break, this bizarre Man on Sunday front page. You're turned on by Lucy Letby in her uniform. An expert witness who helped prosecute Lucy Letby is at the centre of a row by claiming that the nurse's supporters, those who say she's innocent, are somehow sexually attracted to her. I mean, it's a very bizarre front page. There we go. We'll take a look in just a sec. And, of course, the RAF sent to the Middle East. Do you support UK intervention in Iran, Israel? Back in just a sec.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
From the roads to the airways, because a Ryanair flight had to divert after a British woman allegedly assaulted passengers and made false bomb threats because, guess what, she was a bit drunk.
Well, security staff were filmed roughly handling the passenger, with the woman at one point forced onto the ground.
So it begs the question, should drunk plane passengers be banned from flying? And that, if you try and get on a plane drunk, they will stop you. So it's not about being allowed to get on the plane in the first place, it's about whether there should be a ban afterwards to stop you flying for several years or maybe even a lifetime.
Well, we're joined now by journalist and broadcaster Sally Mitchell and lifestyle commentator Steve Miller. Morning to you both. And Steve, I know you'll have a view on this one. What do you think?
Me? I would not ban people. I mean, I would judge. I think it's important to remember, first of all, though, that if you are drunk on a plane, you can end up in prison for 5 years and several thousands of pounds of fines. But I would not ban automatically, because I think you've got to judge the conduct of the passenger rather than if they're drunk. So, for example, someone could get on a plane and then have another drink or two and you know, even sleep, and their snoring might irritate you. But do they really deserve to be banned? Don't get me wrong, if someone is violent on a plane or creates a safety issue on a plane, then yes, I can understand the ban. But an automatic ban, especially for life as well, just seems well over the top. And I also think a ban should not be for life. It should be, you know, a certain amount of time and then it's spent.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Ben Leo's Tonight. Some more breaking news from the Middle East. I told you it was a fast-paced show. Let's go live to Mark White, the GB News Home and Security Editor. Mark, what's going on in Israel? News of injuries.
Yes, some very worrying news coming out of Israel this evening. The Israeli medical services now reporting that 14 people have been injured in a missile strike on a building in northern Israel. We want to show you some incredible images, actually, of that barrage of ballistic missiles coming down over northern Israel, targeting in particular the port city of Haifa. Now, at least we're told 40 ballistic missiles came down over the Haifa area. Iranian state television has been claiming that they launched 100 missiles towards Israel. That may or may not be true, but clearly you can see from those images. We've got two different lots of images from northern Israel that we can bring you, showing the very significant number. And it's quite clear that we're seeing either missile impacts directly on the ground, but if not that, then missiles that have been intercepted and the remains of that missile, and indeed the interceptor missiles impacting the ground, that can be just as deadly because you know, they're big old lumps, and of course they're packed with still fuel and munitions in some cases as well. So very worrying word coming from northern Israel of 14 injuries at the moment. A number of buildings, we're told, have been damaged in this Iranian ballistic missile strike. And while this is going on, Israel is striking Iran. We can also show you images from Iran that show an oil and gas terminal which is ablaze after being struck, we're told, by the Israeli military. So images from Iran that hopefully we can bring you soon, that will show you once we've gone over these images again of that ballistic missile strike down on northern Israel. You'll see when we get to the Tehran images, or the Iran images actually, it is really very significant fires that are burning in an oil terminal in Iran itself. That we understand that 2 oil and gas terminals may have been struck by the Israelis, who are clearly going after some of the key infrastructure facilities in Iran as well, and that might be actually why we're seeing, of course, Iran now concentrating on Haifa, which is Israel's main port in that area. But of course, whatever they're targeting, they're definitely coming down on civilian areas as well, with the indication you're now looking at live images over Tel Aviv. We can tell you that actually this first wave is now over and the all clear has been given, but the Israeli population, they never go far from the bomb shelters, and they've been told actually by the Home Front Command to stay within range of a bomb shelter. You know, they're never far really from bomb shelters anyway in Israel. If you go to any Israeli community, every house will have a place of shelter. Every shop, there are places of shelter in multiple places in hotels and alike. So you're never really more than a few meters away from the ability to take cover. But that worrying news out of Israel tonight, 14 injured in this latest wave of ballistic missile strikes.
Mark, thank you so much. Just extraordinary pictures, both from Israel and Iran. It's around 1,000 miles, I think, as the crow flies. And as we speak, yeah, missiles, drones heading back and forth across that distance. We'll catch up shortly, Mark. Thank you for that. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. I'm back with Paul Richards, Linda Jubilee and Peter Blexley. Linda, your thoughts on this messy situation?
Well, it's much more than messy. It's tremendously worrying. And now our government has decided to send in a contingency response unit. That means, in nuts and bolts terms, that they'll send someone in an advisory capacity, maybe some typhoons, air-to-air refuelling, all sorts of support. But it's not necessarily the nuts and bolts that are important, it's what this indicates. And what it indicates is that the UK government is acting out of preparedness. It is going there because it believes the situation is now escalating and dynamically moving forward. So it's a very, very worrying situation.
OK. I'm going to go to Kevin Schofield, who's down the line of the HuffPost. Kevin, good evening. Thanks for your company. Lots of stories to get through. Should we start with, the Sun on Sunday front page, first of all? RAF sent in over Iran crisis. Sir Keir Starmer this evening refusing to rule out UK intervention. What's your take? What does this mean for the government and, indeed, the British people?
Well, there's no doubt, Ben, it's very worrying, isn't it? I mean, as the panelist was just saying, they're a very fast-moving situation. I think there's going to be lots to come from this story over the next few days. It's clearly going to be, unfortunately, I think, a long-running conflict by the looks of things. And, yeah, the fact that we're going to be there involved in some capacity is obviously concerning. It's British involvement in an overseas conflict, and that's never a good thing. But, yeah, incredibly worrying indeed.
Would we need a vote in Parliament, Kevin, on this?
I mean, no doubt, I'm sure there will be calls for a vote in Parliament. There was a precedent set way back when Tony Blair was Prime Minister in terms of sending troops into Iraq. If you remember now, there's a school of thought that says, yeah, things like that should go to a vote in Parliament. Unless there's boots on the ground, though, I don't think that's necessary. I think military commanders should be allowed, alongside politicians, alongside the government, to make these sorts of strategic decisions, especially in a fast-moving situation like this one.
OK, Paul Richards is here. Paul, did we not have a vote in Parliament, I can't remember the year, in Libya? It was voted down. We didn't get involved.
The constitutional position is that the Prime Minister can exercise royal prerogative on this and actually use the powers of the monarch to declare war and send troops into battle. Now, Blair decided to put it to Parliament before intervention in Iraq because he felt he needed parliamentary support. But constitutionally, you don't need to. Don't forget, RAF jets were in action in December. Where was it? In October, I think, last year, shooting down Iranian missile. So this is not news in that sense. So we could be deployed without parliamentary vote.
I mean, is that a good look, though, politically? I don't think this country is very keen on war.
Well, I think if, presented with that choice of, should Iran be allowed to develop a nuclear bomb to wipe out all the Jews in the world or not, then I think most British people would support the RAF.
Kevin, you're still on the line. Can we look at the Mail on Sunday front page? This is completely bizarre. The headline reads, "You're turned on by Lucy Letby in her uniform." So I'll read you the first paragraph. "The expert witness whose evidence helps convict Lucy Letby is at the centre of an extraordinary row after claiming that the nurse's supporters were motivated by a sexual attraction to, quote, pretty young blonde females." What the hell is this about, Kevin?
It is absolutely bizarre, isn't it? You're right. I mean, now, the Mail on Sunday have obviously got a campaign running effectively. They've done a lot of stories calling into question Lucy Letby's conviction. This, however, is such a bad look for, an expert witness. Now, clearly, this was someone who helped to convict Lucy Letby when she stood trial. I'd like to know the context as to why he said it, who he said it to, what provoked him into saying it. I believe from the story this has happened in the last month or so, I think, so relatively recently. But yeah, it is a very odd story. I need to see the full, as I say, context to form a more considered view. But on the face of it, it doesn't look great at all.
What do you make of the fact that Mail on Sunday have splashed on this? There's so much going on today. There's the grooming gangs, there's the Middle East. I mean, for viewers at home, if you splash on a story, it means it's on the front page. What do you make of the editorial decision to put this on the front page?
It is quite surprising because you look at the front page, there's nothing at all about the grooming gangs U-turn. There's nothing at all about UK military involvement in the Middle East. Clearly, this is a story that they've had in the bag for all week, I would imagine. That have laid the page out very early in the day, and the editors obviously thought, yeah, there's a lot going on, but this is our own exclusive, this is our own property. This is probably going to make us stand out on the newsstand, so that's probably make people more likely to buy the paper when they go into the newsagent or the supermarket in the morning. I can only think that's why, because I think on purely news value, I don't think this is as big a story, clearly, as military involvement or indeed the grooming gangs U-turn.
No, I mean, it's very bizarre. It's quite interesting, but yeah, good point. Kevin Schofield, thank you very much. Appreciate your company. Sorry to squeeze you for time. Coming back after the break, The Express, The Observer and The Times have just dropped those front pages for you. Stick with us. Back in a sec.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
Some big thunderstorms likely over northern Spain and southern France during this weekend. It's still pretty hot across much of Italy. Plenty of fine weather across the Greek islands. Not too hot here as the breeze is coming down from the north and pleasant, with temperatures mostly in the 20s. Fine weather too across much of Croatia. The heat's continuing in Italy, and the heat and humidity sparking some thunderstorms over the Pyrenees and extending up into southern parts of France. Chance of a heavy shower in Rome by Tuesday, but still pretty hot here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. After a thundery start to the weekend, the second half offers something a little bit calmer for us all. It is still quite a damp, dreary evening to come, particularly for areas of Scotland. Some areas of rain still persisting, but generally come midnight they will be turning lighter and patchier in nature. Elsewhere there will be some clear spells as well, a touch of hill and coastal fog in places, but it's not going to be too chilly by any means. Temperatures comfortably in double-digit figures for many of us as we start off Sunday morning. Some of that rain still will be lingering across the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow morning, and we are also going to see another area of rain just slip its way into the northwest of Scotland, particularly for the Outer Hebrides and later on into the Highlands, parts of Argyll and Bute, that will also arrive into Northern Ireland later on in the morning. So a little damp here, but certainly the rain will be lighter and less intense than what we've seen around today. Some sunny spells developing across England and Wales, but there will be a scattering of showers wanting to pop up across central regions, and those will slowly push their way towards the southeast as we head into the afternoon. So can't rule out the odd shower here, but generally a nice slice of sunshine developing for areas in between. And with lighter winds as well tomorrow, it will be feeling relatively pleasant where you do see that sunshine. Highs a little down compared to the temperatures we've seen today, but still a very comfortable 22 to 24 degrees Celsius. Generally around high teens for Scotland and Northern Ireland. As we head into the new week, we're watching as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. Slow progress though, so it's still allowing these weather fronts to just skirt across the far north, and so there will be some further outbreaks of mainly light rain again for areas of Scotland, and then a bit of a brisk breeze here. But for the rest of the UK, with that high pressure beginning to influence us, there will be a good amount of sunny spells arriving once again, and temperatures not faring too badly. It's the sunshine that will become increasingly lengthy as we head into the rest of this week, and temperatures continuing to climb mid to high 20s for some of us. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. More papers have just dropped. Let's look at the Sunday Express tomorrow. The headline reads, "The Best of Britain. Beaming royals give nation a day to cheer on the King's birthday." A picture of the King and Queen there for trooping the colour. Happy birthday, Your Majesty. The Observer. New battle lines. The UK sends fighter jets to the Middle East. Tehran threatens to strike the UK and US bases. And Iran retaliates, of course, tonight. We've heard from Mark White, up to 100 missiles making their way to Israel and breaking in the last couple of minutes. We heard from Mark White, 14 injured in Israel, Western Galilee, I think, after an Iranian missile struck. The Sunday Times. Headline reads, "Britain on a war footing. Aircraft moved to the Middle East after Iran threat." Benjamin Netanyahu says Israeli jets will be seen over Tehran. I mean, it's just escalating at a rapid pace. And the Sunday Mirror. We deserve inquiry into 7/7 terror attack. So a survivor of 7/7 has called for a public inquiry. Yeah, a little bit of a weird front page, if you ask me, on a day like today. Let's go live to Canada, where GB News political editor Christopher Hope has been travelling with the Prime Minister. Chopper, Sir Keir Starmer today has directly challenged Donald Trump, President Trump of America, by declaring Canada is an independent, sovereign country and a much-valued member of the Commonwealth. What can you tell us?
That's right. The PM has made very clear that he believes and knows that Canada is a sovereign country. He said these words to us about 3 hours ago on the flight over with him from London, Ben. He says that Canada is an independent, sovereign country and a much valued member of the Commonwealth. Now, that is a normal thing to say. That is the state of Canada for the past 100 years or so, or more than that, of course. But it matters because Donald Trump says that Canada should be the 51st state of America. He covets this country as his own. He thinks it should be part of the USA, and that's why in parts of Canada, and I'll try and find a picture of it for you, apparently they've changed the word Americano to Canadiacano because they don't like America anymore. They feel it's trying to covet this northern country above the USA, and that's why this, stating simply what it is, which is a sovereign country, independent and a member of the Commonwealth, is a message to Donald Trump. That is Sir Keir Starmer saying to Donald Trump, don't go messing about with Canada because it's not yours. It's part of the realms of the king, our king, King Charles, of course, and a partner nation to the UK. But on the flight over just now, we got the answers that, frankly, have set all these hairs running today about these rape gangs. When the Prime Minister said in terms that Louise Casey, Dame Casey of Blackstock, Baroness Casey of Blackstock, has looked at materials. She's come to the view that there should be a national inquiry. I've read every single word, he told us, of her report, and I'm going to accept her recommendation. Louise Casey, don't forget, was given the opportunity back in January to do a kind of a horizon scan, an audit of what's out there on the rape gangs scandal. We think, through Charlie Peters' reporting, there are 50 towns in this country, in the UK, where there's an issue. So far, Baroness J has looked at only 4 or 5 of them. Why not do more of that? When I asked a question of the Prime Minister on the 6th of January this year, he said the people back in national inquiry were jumping on the far right bandwagon. Well, he's had a long journey since then. 5 months on, he now supports the inquiry. It will be statutory. It will have the right to order people to appear in front of it. It may be judge-led. All that to be determined in the future. But a big movement here from Sir Keir Starmer to do right, I think, by those victims who have been failed, frankly, by Tory and Labour governments over the past 20 years.
Indeed. Chris, before I let you go to continue to enjoy the delights of Canada, can you just provide some colour for our viewers at home who aren't familiar with the way journalists such as yourself, political editors, they travel with the Prime Minister and Downing Street officials? Just tell us about the moment on the plane to Canada when the Prime Minister gathered you and your colleagues around, I don't know, was it a table? What happened? How did he deliver that news about the rape gangs inquiry?
Okay, Ben, so it's a kind of normal 737. Most of it is like flying beds. You know, when you travel first class, Ben, like you do, obviously, you lie down in a flying bed. I'm joking, in a flying bed. I mean, clearly, that's where a lot of the officials are. The PM is up there. We're at the back in the cheap seats, all the journalists in the upright seats, getting stiff necks. Now, at some point, the PM calls us forward. I mean, we meet him midway around where the posh seats meet the cheap seats. And I was chair of the gathering. We had around 20 questions we put to the Prime Minister about all sorts of policy areas, and it fell to me to ask him about the grooming gang scandal. So I said simply to the Prime Minister, will you accept every single recommendation, even if it includes national inquiry from Louise Casey? And he then talked a bit, and then he said, I've read the report, I'm going to accept the recommendation. She recommends a national inquiry. It was quite a moment. It was surprising. It's one of those moments you aren't expecting. I thought he would say something like, well, I look forward to reading the report, maybe something next week, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Instead, he just gave us a straight answer, which was commendable to him. And now that is all over the front pages and inside the newspapers and on GB News, of course, over the weekend. A big moment. But of course, governing here, before I go, I should say, lots of concern about the trouble in the Middle East. Typhoons sent, UK typhoons sent to the Middle East to ensure we have the contingency to protect UK assets. We must assume that they won't be told why they're there. And tomorrow we see the PM meet with Mark Carney when he'll make very clear that Canada, for the UK, is a sovereign nation. What Donald Trump makes of that, we'll wait and see.
Christopher Hope, GB News political editor, thank you very much. And yes, Sir Keir Starmer giving a straight answer for once. That sounds like an interesting experience. Well done for Chopper as well for getting, I guess, I assume from what he just said, he got the scoop of the grooming gangs. 20 journalists around the Prime Minister on the plane. It was Christopher Hope who asked the question, what are you going to do about the inquiry? And Sir Keir Starmer said to Chopper, straight as a piece of wooden plank, to give you a description, yeah, we're going to have an inquiry. So there we go. Well done, Chopper. Good stuff. Right, we're counting down to your best summer so far. £54,321 up for grabs in tax-free cash. It could be in your bank account. Here's all the details you need to win.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck to you. More breaking news from the Middle East, unfortunately out of Israel. We heard from Mark White earlier, our Home and Security editor, that 14 people have been injured in Western Galilee, I believe, after Iranian missile strikes. The Telegraph website now, and Mark White is confirming in my ear as we speak, 1 dead, unfortunately, in Israel tonight off the back of Iranian missile strikes. So 1 confirmed death in Israel off the back of those Iranian missile strikes. More on that in just a sec.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, controversial classroom materials promoted in schools suggest Stonehenge was built by Black Britons and that Roman Emperor Nero wed a trans woman. This is according to a leading education think tank. Meanwhile, iconic British military triumphs like, I don't know, Waterloo and Trafalgar are being sidelined. This comes as research shows fewer than 1 in 10 schools cover them in the curriculum. Joining me now is the wonderful Bobby Seagull, a fellow West Ham sufferer, and always a joy to chat to him. Bobby, lovely to see you this afternoon. However, this story is worrying me slightly. What do you make of it?
There's established fact, and then there's history that's outside the bounds of what most normal people would deem as convention or established fact. And that's where we've got to be careful. Dates like 1066, Battle of Hastings, 1215, Magna Carta, 1455, the War of the Roses. These are established facts that children should learn. Other things, again, my family wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the British Empire. So my parents from Kerala in South India, they moved to Britain in the late 70s. So I'm a child of empire, as it were. So I think it's making sure that we teach all children all the key dates in British history and what it means. But also, I think, sensitively, the context of Britain in terms of empire, migration, social change, because we are a diverse country, but I think it's like being careful not to teach contentious, disputed history as established fact. That's where I think we overstep the mark.
So why is this being included in so many schools? I mean, I was astonished the other day when we had the VE Day memorial to hear a mum phone up a radio show and say, my child hasn't been taught anything about it. I mean, that's sad.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. Let's get more on that breaking situation in Israel, where one person has been confirmed to be killed after an Iranian missile strike. We heard from Mark White a bit earlier, 14 were injured. It's now been confirmed one fatality. Peter Blexley, your thoughts on this situation in the Middle East?
Clearly a regrettable loss of life, but I'd like to focus on some of which we've talked about, Linda in particular, about our troops being deployed, because our military are the very best of us. Of that I have absolutely no doubt. And when we hear about jets being deployed, I think we get almost kind of casual about it, about these are people going about their everyday jobs. Well, they might be their everyday jobs, but every deployment, every flight of a jet requires very sophisticated, brilliant, clever people, not just pilots or pilot navigator teams, but the support staff. And, of course, I think it is highly likely that those who do the most secretive work whilst being in our military are probably already deployed, and we will never know what they do. They are heroes all. We owe them all a great debt, and I wish them well.
Well said, Peter. You are leaving us for the third hour, the new third hour on Ben Leo tonight, so you'll be departing us. But thank you for your company tonight. The viewers love you, of course. You're a fan favourite here on GB News, and you always deliver massive mic drops. And you're back, of course, next week. So thank you for your company. Paul and Linda will be sticking around, and Steve and Alan from Headliners will be with us in just a tick to go through more of the papers, including this really extraordinary story. I think it's massive. On any other day, any other normal day, without all the barrage of massive news stories we've had, this story in The Sun on Sunday tomorrow would probably be front page, but it's about illegal migrant workers and the dent in the British economy they're making. Don't forget, you can stay with us all day, not just on TV, but on radio and your smart speaker too. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say, play GB News on TuneIn. Back in just a few minutes for the third and final hour of Ben Leo tonight. It's going to be action-packed. See you in a tick.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. After a thundery start to the weekend, the second half offers something a little bit calmer for us all. There is still quite a damp, dreary evening to come, particularly for areas of Scotland. Some areas of rain still persisting, but generally come midnight they will be turning lighter and patchier in nature. Elsewhere there will be some clear spells as well, a touch of hill and coastal fog in places, but it's not going to be too chilly by any means. Temperatures comfortably in double-digit figures for many of us as we start off Sunday morning. Some of that rain still will be lingering across the Northern Isles first thing tomorrow morning, and we are also going to see another area of rain just slip its way into the northwest of Scotland, particularly for the Outer Hebrides and later on into the Highlands, parts of Argyll and Bute, that will also arrive into Northern Ireland later on in the morning. So a little damp here, but certainly the rain will be lighter and less intense than what we've seen around today. Some sunny spells developing across England and Wales, but there will be a scattering of showers wanting to pop up across central regions, and those will slowly push their way towards the southeast as we head into the afternoon. So can't rule out the odd shower here, but generally a nice slice of sunshine developing for areas in between. And with lighter winds as well tomorrow, it will be feeling relatively pleasant where you do see that sunshine. Highs a little down compared to the temperatures we've seen today, but still a very comfortable 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, generally around high teens for Scotland and Northern Ireland. As we head into the new week, we're watching as this area of high pressure wants to build its way in from the south. Slow progress though, so it's still allowing these weather fronts to just skirt across the far north, and so there will be some further outbreaks of mainly light rain again for areas of Scotland, and then a bit of a brisk breeze here. But for the rest of the UK, with that high pressure beginning to influence us, there will be a good amount of sunny spells arriving once again, and temperatures not faring too badly. It's the sunshine that will become increasingly lengthy as we head into the rest of this week, and temperatures continuing to climb mid to high 20s for some of us. Bye-bye.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk then? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB.